So you can just repeat after me. This is my Bible. This is my sword. This will I trust. For Yahashua is Lord. No sword of God shall ever be heard. For this is my Bible, and this is Yah's word. Atshem Yehavach. Aman Rishon Yehavashem. His name, his authority. Let it be done unto us. You may be seated and go back to what you were doing in the presence of the Most High Yah. Thank you for joining us again for Early Rising Bible Study Session. I will not be before you but too long today. But yeah, so we're going to get into this message. And today we're going to talk about something coming from an interesting perspective. We're going to, Holy Spirit has us looking at this right here. You know, there's an old saying that our ancestors used to say, right? The old saying is basically, a lie don't care who tell it, right? Now, if you're not familiar with that, with that saying, we don't know exactly, you know, not from a particular type of culture where that saying would be something that would be said quite often. Basically, so-called black folk have just started down in the South, more than likely, but has made its way pretty much all over the United States of America for us. And basically it says, once again, a lie don't care who tell it. Now, when it says a lie don't care who tell it, when they say it, when our ancestors, when our grandmothers, our great-grandmothers, our mothers, our fathers, etc., would say such a thing, what they were trying to tell us is that when it comes to lying, right, a lie always want to be told. There's something about the spirit of, if you want to look at it like this, the spirit of a lie, or the spirit that lies, or the fact that you're, no matter what's going on, a liar or a person that likes to lie doesn't care who tells it, right? Or even for those who are even a little more into what we call a superstitious type activity and things of that nature, right along with that, they might be thinking a lie in and of itself is a curse, you know, the lie is in and of itself is the person, is the spirit, so to speak. And really that's somewhat biblical as well, right? But the lie itself is the spirit, or the lie itself is the person. And so, you know, if you tell it, you love lying. But also too, there was this thing of a lie don't care who tell it, as far as, yeah, you know, lies, they break down families, they break apart relationships, neighborhoods. They stop us from becoming who we're supposed to be. They can get you to a place where you lose contracts, or you lose customers, or you lose your marriage, right? So a lie, don't care who tell it, could have a whole bunch of different, you know, connotations, or not even connotations, but it just gets to a few different places of thought. Well, today we're not talking about a lie, don't care who tell it. Today, Holy Spirit instructed me to talk about a distraction, don't care who tell it. A what? A distraction, don't care who tell it. And this comes off the heels, honestly, of just kind of looking a little bit throughout the day yesterday. And as I was looking, you know, and I don't really keep up with, you know, all the different news avenues that much anymore. Pretty much nowadays, I don't need the television to kind of find out what's going on, when you can easily search. And to be honest, I don't have a television. I don't own a television, or excuse me, that's not true. I don't have a television in my house that's set up anywhere to be seen. Um, and I don't worry about that. And also too, I know what the news is for, to not to necessarily inform you, even though occasionally it will do that, but it's to give you intelligence or intel or information, a small amount of it, through certain family members and certain persons, right? And so when I look at this in the news, when I look at all these different things, right, one of the things that I find is that a whole bunch of stuff is being put out to distract. And this is, yes, I'm dealing with the White House. I'm not Republican or Democrat, but since I'm dealing with this, and some of the rightists are going to turn this off as soon as I say, let me also say for the leftists and for the rightists that I am not one who votes. I believe in the kingdom, the kingdom of heaven, so I don't vote. I'm not one who worries about if Obama did a great work, or Trump did better than him. Because the reality is they're both presidents, and presidents set precedent, and the precedent they set is designed specifically to come against righteousness. They come against all of us. They're doing it through, of course, Willie Lynch syndrome and stuff like that. But Deuteronomy 28 stuff, but they still do this stuff, right? So one of the things that I just want to put that out there. But anyways, I'm babbling a little bit. Sorry, let me rein it in because we don't have that much time for early rising Bible study session today. Anyways, forgive me. So in all that, I say all that to say, to just set this up to say I'm not coming from that perspective. Worried about trying to get somebody to go out and vote or be part of whatever. But if you notice, a whole bunch of stuff's been coming out, that hasn't made the White House look great. And so, whether it's they're getting rid of PBS, which I think hit, their constituents the wrong way. They're getting rid of uh, stuff that helps persons to have like free lunch and food, at school and stuff like that. There, of course, there's the Epstein situation, which I'm not really gonna dive into at this moment, but I think everybody kind of knows what's going on with that, or at least has heard what's going on with that, and the fact that maybe his name, allegedly, is something that they told him was on the files, and so they're trying to do damage control with that. So what they've done is they've started just throwing out distraction after distraction after distraction after distraction to the point of those that are in the DMV. They're looking at trying to militarize that or see if they can make it a military state, which a lot of persons don't know kind of sort of is, but they're talking about the locking down of persons. When I say it's kind of a military state, it's a territory. But in that territory, it belongs to Congress because Congress has no jurisdiction outside of it, and it has no DC doesn't exist unless Congress is there type relationship, lawfully, legally, and even DC is kind of messed up situation because nobody knows by law what it actually is when you study it. But those things going on with DC, um, there's a lot to it. But long story short, that's one of the big things now too. Is okay, we're gonna shut DC down. We're gonna stop the violence in DC. Kind of sort of taking it up a notch from what they did in California, and then all the protests and everything they're going across. And like I was saying before, what I heard was not a lie. At first I knew the saying, but a lie don't care who tell it. But the first thing I saw, heard was a distraction don't care who tell it. A distraction doesn't care if you're on your way to righteousness. A distraction doesn't care if you're doing what you're supposed to. A distraction doesn't care if righteousness is being preached. A distraction doesn't care if it has you depressed. A distraction doesn't care who tells it. A distraction doesn't care who receives it. A distraction doesn't care, um, you know, distractions don't care about any of that. They are what they are. And persons are throwing them out constantly, consistently weaponizing them to ensure that persons such as you and I cannot stay in right lawful standing. Right? That we're dealing with stuff in right lawful standing. Hello, Amy. Yes, this is your first time. If you're first time listening with this is something, anyways, I explained all that. Thank you so much for being on. I apologize. Sorry. But yes, so in all these things, and let me stay focused. In all these things that we're doing, we're talking about, and we're going through, um, where am I at? Where am I at? I'm sorry. So all these things that are happening, Epstein's files, all these different things are going on, and of course, Donald Trump is going through different things. So what do? You throw out a distraction. Now all of a sudden, don't focus on that. We focus on, um, we're not focused on righteousness now. So instead of focusing on righteousness, we go, oh, okay, we'll focus on the fact that, um, you know, um, oh, I'm sorry, excuse me, I said it wrong. We're not focused on the Epstein stuff. We'll focus on the DMV. The DC needs to be shut down. We won't focus on the Epstein stuff. We'll focus on tariffs. By the way, even with that, tariffs. If can I just, you know what? Let me just do it like this, Holy Spirit. I'm having a tough time being honest with you. Let me do it like this because I'm trying. Let me say it like this, beloved. Excuse me. Hmm. With the tariff situation, let's start here. With the tariff situation, when things are going on with the tariffs, we're dealing with all the stuff and all these persons that everybody said, oh yeah, the tariff's going to happen. They're going to shut everything down. Then all of a sudden you had the Republican Party came out. Oh yeah, it's going to make things well. Things are going better. Things are doing greater. All these different things that are going on. And so everybody's like, yeah, these things are going to help our community. They're going to help all these different things that are happening or whatever. And everybody's been complaining and telling you what they are and are not doing. Now, I'm not telling you what they may not do, but I'm telling you there's been persons saying, yeah, they're working, they're not working, this and that. A lot of persons might not even know because nobody's stopping this or nobody's willing to say, maybe you should see what's actually happening. Um, the stuff for the terrorists didn't even start to be put into effect until yesterday. So all these things that everybody's talking about with the terrorists and this, that, or whatever, like none of that's actually going on, right? Like none of that's actually going on, um, throughout this whole thing. Like none of it's actually going on as far as tariffs. Tariffs are not responsible for stuff going, you know, for prices going up, for prices going down. At least not yet. At least not yet. But the only thing that persons are talking about, not the only, but one of the things everybody's talking about is tariffs this, tariffs that. But then when I thought about it, I was like, yeah, what's going on? Why is everybody doing? Because it's a distraction, right? Oh yeah, you have Bill Maher, if you know who that is. If you don't, but he's somebody's been around for a long time in the political scene. Is a comedian, but was on the political scene, and comes to and talks about, yeah, you guys got to keep it together. Everybody's talking about terrorists, but I'm telling you right now, I'm looking, and the stock is still in the same place. It's like, yeah, because the tariff thing didn't go into position, but for the last few months, he's been doing all that stuff to make sure everybody's, um, you know, realizing how great things are because of the changes. But we don't even know how it is, whether it's up or down, whether it's going to go left or right. We don't know what's going to happen with them yet, but they haven't even been put into effect. Am I saying that I necessarily have the greatest faith in it? No, but my works and my faith are not really connected to that type of thing. That being said, I know there's others that are. And so when we go through that, like one of the things that we have to realize is, once again, a distraction don't care who tell it. Uh, these distractions that are out here are designed not only to, we know, it's not only to make us forget what a president is doing. The president, no offense to anybody, but the president, for real, once you know how righteousness works and the fight you're really in, the president, I won't say it's the least of our worries, but he's definitely not the end all be all of any worries. If we were to go to Matthew chapter 13 and we were to start looking through there, we would discover over and over again that the kingdom of heaven is like something at first. In Matthew chapter 13, I guess if you went like verses 1 through 8, verses 1 through 9, you would discover that the kingdom of heaven is like a sower who sows seed and sows the seed in many different places. And some of the seed, it falls on stony ground. Some of the seed, it falls in ground where it doesn't even have a chance to get into the earth. Some of it falls in ground to where it starts to it starts to root, but because it's in a situation where the roots don't grow deep enough, it cannot grow into what it's supposed to. It's got all these different things, right? But it starts, I'm trying to make sure I stay on track, forgive me. It starts in a place to where, yeah, you're dealing with growth, but then it roots, but then it can't quite root enough and still withers away, and can't survive. And in a lot of these ways, we don't realize it, but as we're talking about today, a distraction don't care who tells it. That's really talking about distractions. There are those, right? The seed, the word seed, remember zara, avra in Hebrew, in original Hebrew, zara actually means seed, like you can plant in the ground, seed, like even comes from a man's loins, and then seed, as in the word. And so when there's a parable of the sower of the seed, we're talking about the kingdom of heaven. It's like someone who sows the word, or the word is sown into, right? If you don't catch my drift, if the seed is the word, right? If the seed is the word, if the zara is the word, and the ground, let's say the ground is your heart. Mhm. Okay, so if the ground is your heart, right? The ground is your heart. The word is placed into the ground. Excuse me. The word is placed into your heart, into your love, into your passion. Okay, now that the word has been placed there, now that this seed has been placed there, what does it say happens next? It says sometimes the seed is placed there, but because the soil, the heart is not even in a position to where you can lay something down upon it, right? Sometimes our hearts, our passions are not even in a position to where you can really lay something down to be sown. So it says that some of the seed that was sown, birds, all right, came and they ripped it out of the ground, or the sun even scorched it, right? This seed didn't even have an opportunity. It hit the heart, it was thrown out, it was given, right? But something happened to it to where it didn't even have a chance to get into the ground. Now, when you read about it further, you'll discover that the birds and the sun is supposed to represent Atatan, and when we are doing what we're supposed to, or when we're trying to be righteous, or when the righteous word even is coming to us, that some of us have hearts or passions or things going on around us so much that as soon as the seed or the word gets to us, there's already so much demonic activity around us that we can't even begin to get what Yah has for us. Right? That's literally one. That's literally one place where we can look at it where, hey, we are so distracted, we have so many different things going on. So some of us, have so many different shows we're gonna watch. Forgive me, sorry. Some of us have our shows we're gonna watch. Some of us have a little bit of angst about a lot of bit of stuff. Some of us are trying to figure out how we can play enough video games, and study at the same time. Some of us are looking at other things we probably shouldn't be looking at, but we have so many different things to distract us, right? So one of the things is that the seed was thrown, but even though the seed was thrown, it doesn't even get a chance to penetrate at all. The word doesn't get a chance to penetrate at all. Sometimes even, just the things we're going through in life, if we be honest, get us to a place where it's hard for the word to really have an opportunity to get into us. So so one thing that we deal with is, we deal with sometimes where we're in situations and the word cannot penetrate. The word cannot really get to us as God's people because we're dealing with so many different things, right? Then the next one though is, hey, well, there's a ground that was stony. There's a ground that was just hard, right? Hard hearted. This could be stubborn, right? But this also could be a thing of where somebody's been hurt, and so they close their heart, right? And we live in a system where there's a lot of that. Right? Matter of fact, you know, church hurt is just about a branding nowadays for persons, right? Somebody says, I've gone through church hurt. You don't even have to explain that anymore, right? So there's a lot of ways that your heart can be hurt. A lot of ways that your heart can be jacked, and become so hard. And by the way, if you've been hurt before and you still have not been able, I'm not saying get over it, right? But if you've been hurt before and you haven't been able to get through it, or look through things and forgive, or look through a different prism and stuff concerning what's going on, you know that a lot of times with your heart, with your passion, and closing it off like that, then you're too hearted to receive the word as well. If we can't release forgiveness is almost, if you were to think about it as soil, forgiveness is almost like giving your soil something where you want it to tighten up, or you want to become so hard that you can't actually aerate. You can't plant anything in there, or even if you plant something, there's no oxygen, there's no water that can get to it because it's so compact. And a lot of persons have hearts like that, where God tries to give us stuff, and because we've been hurt, or because we've been raised a certain way, because we're so angry, there's things that even the word isn't getting through the way it used to. We'll even start saying, man, it doesn't feel like the word is getting through. Well, sometimes it's because we're going through a lot of different things, and these things that we're going through are kind of hurting us. So we want to make sure that we have that together. So yeah, so we have that. We also, then it talks about one where the word can penetrate, right? The word that was given can penetrate some into us, and we can become somewhat passionate about it. But then the cares of life, the vicissitudes of life, the ins and outs of life start to happen. And when that starts to happen, it tells us, oh, when that happens, um, it tells us when that happens, we are getting into this position, or getting to this place to where um, all it takes is just a little something to keep us away from what's rooted in us. And so those distractions begin to zap the life out of us, right? The distractions begin to take away our walk with Yah. Now, what do you mean by distractions? Then now we got to clarify, right? What kind of distractions? Well, we mentioned, yeah, stuff like what's going on in the political climate, for sure. Also distractions, though, but I would say anything that's keeping us away from the word, because also the word is Yahashua, right? The seed is Yahashua. The word is Yahashua. The kingdom of heaven is like someone who would sow a seed, and Yahashua now has gone. He's the door to the Vak Hakodash, and the Vak Hakodash, in agreement with Yahashua at Yahava, have come together and are always consistently trying to give us a word, right? And the word, a lot of persons get excited about it, especially when we first learn something, we get excited about it, but then the cares of so many different things come and pull us away, if we be honest, right? And not just the cares of, the typical cares of life only. We forget, like, the cares of how much stuff do I have to do? Recording stopped. Yeah, there's cares as far as bills being paid. There's cares as far as strategies that have to be done, or strategies that have to be won. There's cares as far as health, for sure. But there's also a lot of cares that come into play, even where it's like, hey, we're fighting amongst ourselves. So we have the word somewhat rooted and grounded in us, but this word that's rooted and grounded in us is something that actually gets to a place where we're, excuse me, where we're like fighting with each other. We're fighting over who's more Hebrew, who's more Israelite. We're fighting over, you know, who's colorism that's still entering in. We're fighting over, do we have to obey the law? Do we not have to obey the law? We're fighting over, like, these are distractions. Trump is an easy one. That's low-hanging fruit for me to be able to show, right? The Epstein files, that's an easy one. That's low-hanging fruit for me to be able to show, right? To say, oh, okay, we're gonna take over the so-called nation's capital, even though the United States is a corporation and therefore has no capital. But I get what everybody's saying, like, oh, they're gonna take over the capital. It's like that they're just basically gonna enact what they're allowed to. DC is only exists because Congress exists. DC is an extension of Congress, basically. So becoming a military state, even though it can't because it's not a state, but a military territory, it already is one by law, right? They're just going to show this stuff. They're just going to actually bring everybody out at one time. That being said, and all these different things, yes, those are easy distractions for us to see and to talk about and to go through. But what about, once again, the distraction that's in our house, the distraction that's in our head? Right, the distraction that's of our flesh. Do we crucify the flesh? The word is being given, but there's so many distractions that we're not growing 30, 60, and 100-fold. And so we can have a word that's rooted in us, but it doesn't get that deep because our hearts are hardened by distractions. Might I even tell you, brothers and sisters, and the word says so, but might I even tell you that most of your issues in your relationships, right, are really nothing more than distractions. Because if you're having things that are coming from confusion, you should look for confusion. I'm sorry. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Um, where are we at? Okay, okay. So, I'm sorry. Excuse me. So yeah. So somebody's calling me. I just real. Anyways. So it's okay. Thank you. So um, when we're talking about this stuff, you have to realize and recognize that we're being distracted, even in little things like this or whatever. Sometimes there are loud distractions by us being out of pocket, but also these distractions, these relationship issues, husband and wife relationship, children relationship with the persons in our towns, etc. All these things can be used as what? As distraction. And like we said about lies, a distraction don't care who tell it. A distraction doesn't care if it's messing up your life. A distraction doesn't care if it's having you depressed. A distraction doesn't care if it makes you angry. A distraction doesn't care if your child won't be fed. A distraction doesn't care if you losing your substance. A distraction doesn't care how you feel about yourself. A distraction is just there to keep you away from what's actually going on, right? Distraction, right? Trying to dis or disassociate you from or delay or get you removed from having proper traction, you could even say, right? That's not exact denotation, that's more connotation, but something, that's keeping you from staying from not staying on track, so to speak, but the tract, right, of being able to have the stuff together, right? Distract or even to detract, right? But to distract us, to keep us away from what it is that the Most High wants us to, right? For us to be in this tract or this word or this Bible. There's so many distractions that are being brought to us. So we have to make up in our minds as we get ready to go through this week. And I know this word, I'm gonna be honest, it's not the way that it was given to me. It's not been the easiest to put together, and for sure, it's probably not the most. Yeah, let's go get them message, right? That being said, even in what we're talking about, we have to be honest and have realize that a lot of us are going to be distracted. A lot of us are going to have something that takes us away from being in our word, from making sure that we're doing things of value. A lot of us are going to have things that are really going to try to disrupt the flow that Yah has. You've been called to do great, marvelous, majestic things and move mountains, and there are going to be a lot of things to stop you from. Well, it's designed to stop or at least delay your progress in that. That is the design of the Satan. And as we are looking at his design, so to speak, as we're looking at what he's doing and what he's talking about, as we know what will happen in Revelation, as we know what he is as the Prince of the Air, therefore the airwaves. I just wanted to bring that before you this week because it'll even distract you as far as this, brothers and sisters. Um, you'll listen to the dating websites and the YouTube videos and Twitter bots and eggs or whatever they're getting called now on X. I don't know, but you'll listen to all those different things, and if you're not careful, you'll go for that. Like if you're not careful, you'll get distracted as far as what is a husband, what is a wife, and you'll get distracted with, well, this person might not be doing what they're supposed to, but they're a great person. First of all, anybody that's in enmity with Yah doing something that's enmity with Yah, we get distracted. Oh, but they're smiling. Oh, but we grew up together. Oh, but we have this great time. We do this, we do that together. And the reality is Yah's trying to remind us, hey, just because you want to say this, you want to say that, you want to talk about this and all that stuff, if they're not, if they're doing things especially purposefully, as if this is their purpose, as if they have satanic purpose and no purpose of Yah, if they're doing things that are evil, they're doing things that are evil, right? Now, and obviously, I have to make sure I put this. I mean, this is early rising Bible study session, so we're not dealing with stuff that we normally would, right? On the live session, on the regular live session. That being said, let me just say it in case, anyways. This is not an excuse for, you have to give these weird warnings sometimes because sometimes persons take stuff literally, right? So this is not an excuse to say, okay, well, anybody, I shouldn't give anybody room to grow There should not be an opportunity for us to step on somebody who's done wrong. But if somebody's doing wrong, we try to help them repent. If somebody doesn't get it, we're trying to help them to get it, right? And if they get it, the Bible says, "No, you're getting, get an understanding. Have a standard that you're under." We are trying to present all of these different things, for sure. What I'm saying more so is that there are a lot of us who are literally losing time, effort, business opportunities, etc., getting older and not moving because we've been waiting on persons who are, I hate to use the term because we use it so improperly and so often that it's lost its meaning. But there are persons around you that are extremely toxic, poisonous. Poisonous to the touch, poisonous to the word, poisonous to every word that they say, that they speak, where they're trying their best to have you do what they need rather than you do what Yah says do, which means that you'll do what you need. So in other words, they don't, either they want their needs met by you or they want their wants. They lack, and they think that control of you in some way, shape, or form, or manipulation of you in some way, shape, or form is going to um, help them. Some of them even get to a point to where they think that they don't help you because it helps them, right? And so we get distracted, and we've seen, Holy Spirit has been revealing to us. Yeah, this one is not necessarily the best one to be around like that. That one over there, not so much. This one over here, they on some stuff like we've already received the word, right? And maybe we even do it for a little bit. Once again, it roots a tiny bit, but does it actually stay? We're supposed to. That we get distracted. So we'll have an experience. Yah's growing us. He's blessing us. He's moving us. Right? We'll have an experience sometimes like this. Yah's blessing us, moving us, growing us, and then we're part of an organization or we're under somebody. This is when church hopping begins. That term, church hopping, because you'll have all these persons going to, and then what happens is what everything's going well. They're cool. Everything's great, and the next thing you know. So the word and the doctrine and everything is rooting. It's taking its time, but it's getting better. The person is speaking the lingo. The person is praising Yah. The person is running around. The person is showing up to everything. And then all of a sudden they don't like the way that the service moved or that something was done. They bring it up to somebody. Somebody says, "Okay, we'll try to take care of it." They don't move fast enough. Somebody doesn't like it. They move on to the next church, and they go to that church, and they sit there, and everything's great and everything's cool. But this time, the praise and worship is just a little off. And if they would just listen to you, but the praise and worship, but and then you go to the next place, and then you go somewhere, and okay, I like everything, but and even though Pastor, he's great in every area, but he just don't make me feel the message. That's stuff was out. I just don't feel it. So you go to the next, and before we know it, you've got this nice little resume going of every few months to every year. And for real, it's interesting. We don't think about it. We think about it in jobs, but I say even every couple years. I'm not saying maybe Yah has some of us designed to be persons who do that, and depending on you might actually move different places and stuff. You might actually just be trying to figure out what place is best. And you don't want there's so much stuff going on in these churches that you were like, okay, I can really see myself standing anywhere specifically, but a lot of times we become the same thing in these assemblies now as Hebrew Israelites. We become the same thing, and we see persons jumping from this one to this one to this one. Okay, I don't like what you're saying here, and so then and the danger of, all right, well, this person believed this over here, but as soon as they left, all of a sudden they didn't believe anything, and now they believe this over here, and then as soon as they left, they are dismissive and say that everything is there, and they don't use the same stuff. It gets to a place where it's like we have a lot of persons who are looking at this as, and look, there's truth in everything, and it is a movement, but it's so much more. Well, that's you hear a lot of persons, even a lot of persons being grafted in, that you hear a lot of persons like, oh yeah, they're doing this and they're blah blah, they're growing, or I'm sorry, this is a movement, this Hebrew movement. It's like, no, it's not just, don't label it as just a movement. This is not a movement. This is something this is a nationality. This is four corners, or sorry, four corners full of nation being sent back to a central location. This is really what it, what we're speaking on, right? And a lot of persons come in with a mindset, including those of us with Balaam doctrine, who are already, prophets, priests, etc. We have a mindset to where kind of there's the same old, same old. We have we have a mindset of we're not really trying to move or do but so much. We have a mindset that's a lot of infighting still. We have a mindset of all this different stuff, but and these things serve as distraction. And if we be honest, we like debate so much. Obviously, I don't mind debate. That's part of what what got me where I am. Being able to defend that which I believe. That being said, um, we love. There's persons that love the debate more than they love the word. They like to use the word to debate and tell everybody why they know more, but we're still not helping our community. We're other persons who are fighting so much to make sure that you understand. Yeah, if you're not on my calendar, but it's not your calendar. There's one calendar. But no other way that I see the calendar is no. Okay, well, if you think that mine is off that much or whatever, even though I'm still going to make sure I do Passover on this one, are you against me coming and doing Passover with you? Right? If we're hitting all boxes, can I do mine and still come to yours? No. Because if you're not, you see what I'm saying? We get to this place to where we're so into that we're distracted from becoming the nation we're called to be. We're not just being called, even though yes, who shall believe our report? So we're here to make sure that the word goes forth. We're here to make sure that persons are comprehending the word in a manner in which they've never understood it before, or therefore could never comprehend it before. We're here to make sure that the word is, going back to its original intent. We're here to work and strive towards and for perfection. We're here to tell persons that when we follow the law, that is the only possibility we have until we get these glorified bodies, of making sure that that even when we get them, for real, that's the only we can make sure that we aren't doing anything that is considered to be perfect or complete. And even tell persons that the Bible tells us that we can be perfect because we should be perfect as our Father in heaven is. If we act like our Father, we'll be like our Father. So, there's all these different things that are there for us to make sure, but a lot of persons, once again, we're not in a position to where we're looking at what Yah wants and looking at what he wants as far as the tracts that he has given us to see, to read, to help us with our countenance. A lot of us are distracted. We are in a place to where we have so many things taking us away from focusing on what Yah says. And so for this week, as I don't really have anything else to add, but as for this week, I would just suggest to all of us to prayerfully consider what are the distractions, what are the things that are designed by the enemy that right? That are designed by the enemy, and that he's trying to use to get your eyes, right, for you to take your gaze off of the Most High, right? What is it that you, as a shepherd of your house, the leader of your household, right? What is it that you are going through that obviously you can tell is not of Yah, causing confusion, and it's causing you to be like, man, I can't really focus on the word, the message, what it is, what are the things that are there, right? What are the things of Yah that are there when I say this, right? I want you to think about the distraction, right? Yes, the word, the seed is getting to you. Praise Yah, right? But even if it's rooting, but it's not rooted deep enough, it's still going to become problematic. So what are the things that are in our heart, in our ground, in our soil, in our love, in our passion, that if we would let go, we could just go that much more? Who is it that we're holding on to? What kind of hurt? What kind of, I want recompense. I want Issachar. Okay, well, if you want Issachar, you have to make sure that you're in position with Yah. And he's the one that shall recompense. But what are the things that you're holding on to? What are the things that are causing a lot of distraction? Matter of fact, what are the things that are causing you to possibly be a distraction to somebody else? And that's definitely something we don't want to do, because that makes us blood guilty if we're such a distraction to somebody that they can't even receive what they're supposed to receive. So let us not be distractions. Let us not be distracted, and let us look at that for this week, right? do some research on what's going on around you. We should do this daily anyways. If we're crucifying the flesh, part of that sometimes is anything else that's of the flesh that's causing us to fight or war with the Most High. And what He has for us is a distraction anyways, right? So let us make sure that we, yes, exactly. We don't want to be a distraction. We don't want to be a stumbling block. We don't want if somebody's running a race and they trip over something, and there's a possibility that they won't be able to finish the race, or it'll take them a minute to get up, or they definitely slow down their time. That's a distraction, right? So we don't want to be a literal block, maybe that somebody throws on the track, right? And like somebody's running the race and we trip over. We don't want to be tripping. We don't want anybody tripping us. Right? We don't want anybody tripping out. Right? We want this to be consistent. So that's the consistency that we need. And anything else that's making us inconsistent is a distraction. So I speak life over you. We speak health over you. We speak continued wealth over you, because you already are rich. So it's not just riches you need to worry about, but your holistic wealth, health, and wealth. We speak lack of distraction. That means we speak over your body, that you will be well. We speak and touch and agree that you shall be able to be delivered from the pain. We touch and agree that you shall continue what you started, because the great work that Jehovah has in you, it shall be completed. And we speak not just a great, wonderful, and prosperous week, which means that you can push through the week. We speak that over your day. Let this Yom be a day of righteousness and a day of being fulfilled, right? A day of being put into effect. Yes, you being put into effect. When you go to your job today, you are put into effect. When somebody's on that bus ride with you, that train ride with you, yes, even in traffic, there's something that you could possibly do to make sure that somebody's day is that much greater and that much better. So I hope that you guys have a great day. Thank you so much for being on. We appreciate you. We'll have the recording out in a little bit for those who would like to see it. And I will see you guys at the top of the hour. Thank you again for being on. Pray for me, pray for my family, and we'll do the same for you. And I will talk to you guys at 8 a.m. New York time. Thank you again, beloved. Appreciate you. And as always, remember that you are loved, you are necessary, you are majestic, you're fearfully, wonderfully made, and you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. Shalom, family. Peace. Baba Gisha. Achet Renee. How you doing? All right, Shalom, family. Peace.
Shalom, Pastor.
Good job, Pastor.
Baba
Shalom,
Gisha.
family.
Shalom. Shalom.
Shalom, family.